2 years ago, on the crisp autumn afternoon when Marissa and Daniel exchanged vows beneath the amber maples of Hawthorne Park, she believed she was marrying a man of integrity, devotion, and fierce, abiding love. She wore her grandmother's pearl necklace, its beads warmed by generations of hope. And Daniel vowed before friends, family, and God that he would cherish her, protect her, and never betray the sacred trust they placed in one another. But promises, Marissa would learn, can be broken with the simplest of lies, and sometimes with the most devastating of smiles. Yea, the first whisper. Marissa's first inkling that something was wrong arrived not with a confrontation, but with a whisper. A hushed conversation in a cafe 2 blocks from her office. She'd stayed late at the magazine's editing suite, her eyes bleary from reworking an author's manuscript, when Daniel called. He'd suggested meeting up for a late dinner. They'd share a quiet evening together at the little Italian place on Elm Street. She thumbed in a quick "see you at 9," then slipped her phone into her purse and went to wash her hands. At the sink, she heard 2 women's voices drifting down the hallway. "I still can't believe he's mine tonight." "Don't jinx it, he's got no idea." Her heart thumped. She glanced around. The hallway was empty. She dried her hands, chalking it up to daydreams and fatigue, then headed back to her desk. An hour later, Daniel never showed up. His calls went straight to voicemail. When she finally tracked him down, through voicemail, then text, then another unanswered call, he apologized with a long, rambling message about work emergencies and rescheduled dates. His voice sounded strained, sincere, yet the pit in Marissa's stomach refused to dissipate. Unearthed secrets. That weekend, determined to trust but verify, Marissa borrowed Daniel's laptop for a quick project, only to discover his password had been changed. Her fingers froze above the keyboard. 2 years of shared calendars, mutual trust, inside jokes, all locked behind a digital barrier she had never imagined. The betrayal burned. She prowled their apartment for clues. Hotel keycards she did not recognize, lipstick-stained napkins in the trash. An unfamiliar perfume scent on his coat, the delicate sweetness of jasmine that did not belong to her. Each discovery was a shard of glass in her heart. Late one night, Daniel, came home at 2 a.m. breathing apology and exhaustion. His jacket reeked of jasmine. She watched him stumble to bed, feigning sleep as her anger and horror simmered in the darkness. The first mistress. It began, Marissa discovered, with Olivia, a colleague from Daniel's architectural firm. Olivia was the sort of woman who wore confidence like couture. Sharp skirts, an easier laugh, a silky auburn ponytail. They'd met socially at a launch party, and Marissa had liked Olivia, had even invited her to their wedding. She was charming, intelligent, and seemed genuinely happy for them. But then came the text Marissa found. "Olivia, can't stop thinking about earlier, you were..." Daniel. It meant nothing. Honest. The message trail, recently deleted, lurked in an unallocated block of Daniel's hard drive. Marissa pieced it together with forensic software she barely knew how to use. That first affair was brief. No more than a month of stolen glances, office flirtations, and meeting in empty conference rooms. To Daniel, it was a thrilling diversion. To Olivia, it was something more. But it left both gasping for more, dangling on the thin thread between infatuation and devastation. Marissa confronted Daniel the next morning as he reached for his coffee. She held out a printout of the messages. He froze, his fingers hovering in the air. "Missa, His voice cracked. "It was nothing. I was lonely. Work's been stressful." "How could you lie to me?" she whispered. His shoulders slumped. She walked away, her betrayal raw and exposed. For the second shadow. Weeks passed in a haze of therapy sessions, stiff dinners, and hushed phone calls with her best friend Eliza. Marissa wanted to believe Daniel's tearful promises that he would end things with Olivia, that he loved only her. But love, she realized, was not enough to bind someone who had tasted the thrill of infidelity. A sudden break in his routine sent alarms blaring in her chest. Daniel began disappearing on Wednesday afternoons without explanation. When pressed, he blamed new client meetings. A subsequent train ticket stub followed him across continents, departing for a weekend. In Tokyo's neon haze, she discovered the second affair. Aya, a translator with soft eyes and an even softer mien, who met Daniel at a hotel bar. From the corner of a dark lounge, Marissa watched them slip upstairs together. She gasped at the glass elevator's upward glide, heart pounding. She waited by the pool, by the bar, desperate for confirmation of what she already knew. And when they emerged, laughter tumbling between them, it was a living tableau of betrayal. Aya's hand on Daniel's arm, his head tipped to whisper in her ear. A snapshot that would haunt Marissa forever. Yet this time, she did not confront him. She snapped photos instead. Evidence she would brandish later, when he least expected. Via the third illusion back home, Marissa shielded her pain with cold determination. She ran spreadsheets, booked meetings, and forced herself to laugh at Daniel's jokes. He sensed the change, the distance behind her eyes, the steel in her voice. He begged forgiveness. She met his pleas with calm resolve. One night, rifling through his phone while he showered, she noticed a recurring number, flagged Mia. A name she did not recognize. Mia. Innocuous enough. But her curiosity was a splinter she could not ignore. She called Mia. "Hello?" said a voice, warm and surprised. "Who are you to Daniel?" Marissa asked, her tone even. There was a pause. I'm his sister," the voice stammered. Marissa's chest loosened slightly. Relief? No. Suspicion? Why hadn't he told her he had a sister? She pressed further. "Where do you live?" "Just out in Brookfield. We don't talk much." Yet when Marissa checked Daniel's family records later, there was no Mia anywhere. His only sister, Julia, had died years ago. No Mia existed. It was a fabrication, a cipher, a code word referencing something darker. 6. The confrontation. Marissa laid out her evidence on the dining room table. Photos from Tokyo, message transcripts with Olivia, itinerary printouts, calls to Mia, unanswered by any real person. Daniel stared at it all, as though seeing his life laid bare for the first time. "I trusted you," she said. "All I ever wanted was a partner, a teammate." Daniel's eyes glistened. "I made terrible mistakes. I never meant to hurt you." "Then why lie?" Marissa asked. He swallowed. "I wanted to protect you from my weaknesses." "Protect me?" She laughed, bitter. "I deserve the truth." He looked at the photos. His shoulders sagged. Mia, she wasn't a person. She was code. My excuse to vanish. When I was with Olivia, I texted with Mia. When I flew to Tokyo, I texted visiting Mia. It seemed easier than confessing my indiscretions. His voice cracked. "I thought if I admitted my first affair, you'd leave me." Then I couldn't stop. Marissa felt the floor tilt beneath her. "So you made up a sister? A non-existent person to cover your tracks?" He nodded. I kept telling myself I'd stop, that I'd confess everything at the right time. But then I met Ava. 10. The third affair's truth, Ava. A stranger Marissa had never heard of, was the final piece, and this one cut the deepest. Ava was in town for a week-long design conference. Daniel had been assigned a keynote speech. Marissa saw photos of them together on social media. Laughter over cocktails, a selfie shared with the event's hashtag. Their faces close, the spark undeniable. When Marissa pressed him, Daniel confessed. "Ava and it just happened. 1 week turned into 3 stolen days. Then I flew back and I found your face. And I remembered what I was risking." "But you still did it." He covered his face. "I'm a monster." 8. The darkest hour. In the days that followed, silence reigned. Marissa moved through the apartment like a ghost, making coffee she didn't taste, going for runs she barely remembered, lying awake at night while Daniel lay asleep, racked by guilt. She considered leaving. The evidence screamed for revenge, for retribution. but something else rooted itself in her heart. A desperate need to understand why, to see beneath the surface of the man she had loved. She arranged one final meeting with each of the women. With Olivia, she confronted her in a chic Manhattan cafe. "I loved him," Olivia whispered. "I thought he loved me." Marissa said nothing. Instead, she slid the printed messages across the table. Olivia's face drained of color. She stammered apologies, but Marissa's stare never wavered. Then Aya, in a Tokyo tea house via video call. Aya's tears flooded the screen. "He told me we were meant to be." She gazed into Marissa's eyes. "I had no idea you existed." Finally, Ava at the Design Center's auditorium after hours. Ava's steel blue gaze met Marissa's. "I didn't know," she said. "He told me he was divorced. Ex." The choice standing in the ruins of her marriage, Marissa faced a choice: destruction or renewal. She forced Daniel to sit across from her one last time. "I know everything," she began. "Not just the affairs, but why you needed them. A craving for excitement, for the forbidden. But I also know who you can be if you fight for it. I still love you, Daniel, but I can't forgive dishonesty." He reached across the table, fingertips inches from hers. "Tell me how to start." Marissa drew back. "You earn trust over time. You don't lie. You don't avoid what hurts. You answer my calls. You let me into your world." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I will. I swear. X. Threads of redemption." The road to reconciliation was jagged. They attended couples therapy, long, brutal sessions that cleaved secrets into the open. Daniel surrendered his phone, left it on the kitchen counter each morning. He shared his calendar. He welcomed Marissa's presence at work events. She learned to temper her suspicion with cautious hope. They planted a white rosebush in the backyard, symbol of enduring love, of new beginnings. Each petal's unfolding reminded Marissa that trust, like a bloom, must be nurtured, coaxed from the earth with patience. Nights were still uneasy. Sometimes she awoke expecting betrayal, but he was there sleeping soundly, arms around her. And she would close her eyes, remembering the promise she had once made, that love could conquer even the deepest wounds, if two hearts dared to try. Epilogue. A fragile promise. On the second anniversary of their wedding, they returned to Hawthorne Park. The maples had shed their leaves, standing bare against a silver sky. Marissa wore her grandmother's pearls again. Daniel held her hand. 2 years ago, he said softly, I stood here and made vows I nearly broke. Today, I stand here having learned how to keep them. She smiled, a tremor of emotion in her chest. The ghosts of those affairs still flickered at the edges of her mind, but they no longer held power over her. The white rosebush at home was blooming. So was their fragile, reclaimed love. As they exchanged quiet whispers, a gust of wind scattered the fallen leaves around them. A reminder that time moves on, that pain can give way to growth. And in that clearing, beneath the skeletal branches of the maples, Marissa closed her eyes and let herself believe once more in the possibility of forever.